Hey everyone, and welcome to this edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams along with Chris King. And Chris, fun stuff going on all over the place last night. I know that you were watching a little hockey. Let's talk a little bit about that Ranger game.
Yeah, I mean, I was disappointed with the way that Toronto played in the final two periods. It seems like they blew a 3-1 lead again for what seems like the 13th game in a row. The biggest problem that I have is the same problem that we have in the NFL when it comes to making consistent calls and officiating. There's a goal late in the game under 4 minutes ago. Austin Matthews had a puck deflect in off his skate. I will grant he turned his skate probably at a 45-degree angle. The puck ricocheted off the skate into the net past Chesterkin. It would have made it a 5-4 game. They reviewed it and said that he kicked it. Now, I've seen blatant ones where a guy lined up and did a full force boot with his skate, and they counted the goal earlier this season. So, I mean, would it have changed the outcome of the game? Probably not. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is you've got to be more consistent with these calls, because sooner or later you're going to have a play like that that's going to affect a game. It could happen in the postseason. It could happen in playoff positioning. And then you're going to have a whole big mess. And Gary Bettman, he's had enough problems in his as the czar of the National Hockey League. Mm-hmm. The last thing he needs is to add to it by continuing with this horrible officiating. I miss the days, and I never thought I'd say this, of Kerry Frazier, even Don Koharski. Mm-hmm. And, of course, I was always liked when Ray Scapanello was a linesman for a game, because you knew that things were going to be called right. Some of these guys now, I don't think they know what's going on half the time.
Well, the other thing, too, is the game is so much faster with, what's going on in the ice these days. These guys are magnificent skaters, but if you look at how the puck bounces off the skate, off the ice, off of sticks, I mean, it's hard to keep track of where it's going on the best of circumstances. But like you said, if a guy's skate is kind of like, angled just in the right possible situation, there's no way the goalkeeper's going to be able to stop it. Plus, as you say, you've seen people kick it, and I've seen people kick it. I've seen people use their hand and try to push it.
That too.
And hope that the official didn't see it. But with all the different camera angles we have now in replay, it's pretty hard to sneak something by people like that. But,
yeah, I mean, it was unfortunate, but I mean, mm-hmm. Even good teams lose from time to time. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not going to take anything away from the Rangers. I mean, they were flat in the first period, but they came back and played good hockey in the last two periods. And, more power to them. Unfortunately, and I feel bad for John, because he'll probably be at this game Saturday. It just means that Austin Matthews and the Leafs will try and take out some aggression on the Islanders at the UBS Arena.
That's probably true. Let's talk about our buddies at Caesars. And we're going to talk about the Caesars Sportsbook. Now, scrolling below is some of the stuff you need to know. And what you need to know is Caesars Sportsbook and Winners and Whiners have got a deal for you. Make your first deposit and bet using Caesars Sportsbook app or online, and they're going to match the first wager up to $1,000. So dollar for dollar, that's what they're going to do. Now, the only way you get this deal, because you are a fan of Winners and Whiners, is using the promo code Video Winners. Okay, you see that promo code scrolling below, and also it's in our show box below. So once again, the Caesars Sportsbook Winners and Whiners deal is this: you make your first deposit and bet using the Caesars Sportsbook app or online, and they're going to match your first wager dollar for dollar up to $1,000. But you have to use that promo code Video Winners. Now, if you happen to be lucky enough to live in the same state as Scott Rochelle, which happens to be New York, then we've got an even better deal for you. All right. I know it's hard to believe, but it's true. It's called the Empire State Royal Welcome. You get $300 in bonus cash on sign up. Plus, they're going to match your first deposit up to $3,000, but you have to use the special code, and the special code in this case is Winners New. Okay. So the Empire State Royal Welcome, $300 in bonus cash for the sign up. Then they're going to match the first deposit all the way up to $3,000, and the promo code is Winners New. All right. Okay. So We appreciate what the folks at Caesars are going to do. Remember that you must be 21 years of age to participate. And as we always say, both Caesars and those of us here at Winners and Whiners, please bet responsibly. So we're going to move from our friends at Caesars, and we're going to go talk about our first college basketball game of the evening, and away we go.
Well, I just find it funny, Jim, already John saying that there's no way that John Tavares, who, of course, left the island to go to Toronto, will come to the UBS Arena and win. John, are you saying that just because Tavares already owned the Nassau Coliseum, so you just don't want him to take over a new building?
John Tavares had a lot of success at that building.
But we'll start off out in the West Coast Conference, where the St. Mary's Gales are at home at the to take on Santa Clara. Both these teams have been pretty good this season. Santa Clara is 11-6. St. Mary's 13-4 coming into this game. It's going to be an interesting contest out there. You know, Herb Sendek, his team's coming off a 115-83 loss to number 1 Gonzaga over the weekend, that game coming at home. Meanwhile, St. Mary's beat Pepperdine 77-62 on the road last Thursday to bounce back from that rock fight they had with BYU 2 Saturdays ago. When you break this right down, though, I mean, the Gales 9-0 at home, Santa Clara is 2-2 on the road. And if you look at that, Jim, St. Mary's 4 losses have come to teams that are a combined 54-10. You look at the teams that the Gales have lost to, they lost by 6 to Wisconsin back in November. Wisconsin's 15-2. They lost by 16 at Colorado State in early December. Nico Medved and the Rams come in 14-1. They lost to San Diego State by 10 on a neutral floor. And we know how good the Aztecs have played this season and how they played well in recent years, period. They're 10-3 this season. And then, like we said, they lost to BYU on the road in Provo in a game where nobody scored any points. It was 52-43. But, I mean, the Cougars are 15-4. So you're not seeing any bad losses on the books there when it comes to St. Mary's. Meanwhile, Santa Clara has already lost to UC Irvine and Louisiana Tech at home, as well as Cal and Boise State on the road. You have to be concerned about Santa Clara in this one, facing a St. Mary's team that is 8th in the nation in scoring defense. They give up just 58 points per game. They're 86th in field goal percentage, defense at 41.1. They only allow 5.1 3-pointers a game. They are 5th in free throw attempts allowed at 12.4. So they don't give you opportunities at the charity stripe, and they don't give up very many rebounds, just 28.6, which is 3rd fewest in the nation. It's going to be a test for Sendek's team. They're 63rd in scoring offense at 77.3 points a game, and they're 22nd in field goal percentage. But how are they going to handle St. Mary's with the way the Gales play defense? Randy Bennett's team, they're known for that, basically. Santa Clara is 1-5 ATS in their last 6 on Thursday. They're 1-4 in their last 5 against teams with a winning percentage above 600. Meanwhile, St. Mary's 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 at home, 6-1 in their last 7 as a favorite. I like the Gales to win this one. They should win by double figures. I mean, nobody's impressed by Santa Clara's road wins this season. They beat, San Jose State, who we told you would lose yesterday to Wyoming, and they
did. Yeah.
And they beat Pacific, who also no one is impressed by, because when you look at the Tigers, they're 5-11 and have lost 8 of their last 9.
You know, the folks at St. Mary's are probably clutching their rosary beads, praying that that perhaps Gonzaga might move to the Pacific, the Pac-12 or some other conference, because every year or so St. Mary's puts out a really good product, but they when you're up against the folks at and they, to their credit, they've actually beaten Gonzaga a couple of times during the past 5 or 6 years. So
yeah, I mean, to your point, I mean, look at some of the teams that they've rolled out in recent years. Yeah. In 2016, they were 29-6. In 2017, they were 29-5.
Right.
In 2018, they were 30-6. So I mean, you're not, like you said, you're talking about a good team. They were 26-8 in 2020 before the tournament got wiped out.
Right.
And now they're 13-4. They get a crack at Gonzaga on February 12th, I'm guessing, and then on February 26th. So those two games are going to be interesting for the Gales. Obviously, they'll get another swing at BYU in between those two games. So that's going to be a rough closing stretch for St. Mary's. Gonzaga on the road, BYU at home, then at San Diego, and then home against Gonzaga to close the regular season.
Right.
But, I mean, in between now and then, the only game that they've got that they really have to worry about will be San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And the Dons have played good basketball too.
That's true. And you're talking, I mean, you figure St. Mary's is going to get to 20 wins. It's very possible San Francisco can get to 20 wins. We know.
I mean, the Dons are 15-3.
Right. You know that Gonzaga and San Jose State's going to be over 20. So that's pretty good company you're talking about there.
Yeah, I mean the West Coast Conference. There's not a lot of punching bags in there. I mean, if you're going to look at the doormats, it's Pacific and Pepperdine. But Pepperdine, they lost a big chunk of talent from their team the last couple of years with Colby Ross graduating and Kessler Edwards going to the NBA. So it's a rebuilding year, but Pacific, I don't know what their problem is. They're just terrible.
Oh, well, you can't have everybody, somebody's got to be the homecoming team for everybody else.
Normally that's Portland, but I mean, Portland has a winning record right now, but they'll tail off probably now that conference play has started. Right,
when they get to the conference. Okay, let's go from there to Oakland, I think, right?
Yeah, we're going to go to the arena as Oakland is at home against Milwaukee in the Horizon League. Oakland 13-4 this year. Milwaukee, that's right, 6-12. They're 3-5 at home. Oakland's 5-3 on the road. These teams met just 11 days ago, and Oakland rolled to an 86-65 win in that contest. The Golden Grizzlies 95th in scoring offense at 75.5 points a game. They're very good at the free throw line. They're 19th in the country at 77.8%. And they get a crack at a Milwaukee team that's just 304th in scoring offense at 66.3 points a game. They're 230th in field goal percentage at 43.3. They're 271st in three-point shooting at 31.8%. In addition, Pat Baldwin Jr., the son of Coach Pat Baldwin, is questionable for tonight's game. He's dealing with, I believe it's a knee injury. That would be a big blow for the Panthers because they need anyone that they can possibly get to score points. Baldwin is a freshman. He's 6'9", 220, and he's averaged, he's put up some decent numbers. So they clearly could use him. He hasn't played since January 5th against Green Bay when he logged 11 minutes. He's missed actually 7 of the last 8 games, so they're hoping to get him back for this one. They're going to need him, but the bottom line is Oakland is a very talented team. They're 6-0 against the spread in their last 6 overall. They're 5-0 in their last 5 after an ATS win. Milwaukee 1-5 in their last 6 against teams with a winning percentage above 600, and 1-5 in their last 6 against teams with a winning straight-up record. I know everybody thinks that, these mid-major teams, you can just write off. But, hey, I mean, if it wasn't for mid-majors, nobody would know what a power conference was.
Right. That stat that's right there at free throws at almost 78%, that really is, when you get down to crunch time, that statistic right there probably is the most important stat of everything that's on that list.
Yeah, when you're trying to salt away a game,
Yeah.
I wrote about this when I came to doing a game yesterday for Winners and Whiners, the USC Colorado game.
Right.
USC is god awful when it comes to shooting free throws. I mean, and that's going to be something. It might not cost them tonight in Boulder, but it's going to cost them sooner or later. And the worst thing that you want is to be playing in one of those 3-14 or 4-13 games in the first round of the tournament, where you've got some team that's hanging around and you can't put them away because you shoot horrible at the free throw line. Just to back up that point, USC is 355th of 358 teams in the nation shooting free throws at 61.3%. I don't care how well you shoot from the floor. If you can't hit free throws, you're going to get beat by some team that has no business hanging around.
Well, the other thing is you're going to get beat by the team that's across town. UCLA can hit free throws, so
that's true.
You got that going for you. But you're right. I mean, first you have to worry about it in the Pac-12 tournament, and then you have to worry about it in the if you make it to the NCAA, which these guys should, without any question, make it to the NCAA tournament. But it's the difference in it could be the difference in seeding.
That's true too.
It's you lose a game that you're not supposed to lose, or you lose a game early in the tournament, and suddenly that maybe 3 seed that you thought you had becomes a 5 or 6 seed.
But now here's an interesting thing, Jim. I'd like to get your take on this real quick.
Sure.
Of the top 20 teams in the country that come from that in free throw percentage,
Mm-hmm.
you know how many are from a power conference?
1.
2.
Okay.
Villanova is 3rd.
Okay, well, that makes sense. You're right. You're right.
And Utah is 8th.
Huh.
That's it. You've got Nevada, Charlotte, Tulsa, Detroit Mercy from the horizon, North Alabama, Kent State, IPFW, also from the horizon, Fort Wayne there, Dartmouth, Missouri State, and Toledo are 20 through 11. Incarnate Word is 10th. Bucknell from the Patriot is 9th. Hofstra is 7th. Colorado State 6th. Miami of Ohio 5. VMI from the SoCon is 4. Montana is 2.
Hey, we've had Montana a couple
times.
Sky
Country.
Yeah.
And Portland, the team that had no player come back from last season after the debacle that was the Terry Porter era, number 1 in the country, 83%.
Wow. How about that?
But 2 power conference teams.
Right.
And then people wonder why all these teams, all these big name teams get upset by scrub teams that are like, well, I've never heard of Pennsylvania A&I Tech Community College State.
Right.
That's because they make free throws.
That's right. And that's that's why they call it madness, right?
Exactly.
All right. So
real quick there, Jim. James wants to know about Murray State. I mean, we've talked about the Racers. They played some very good basketball this season. They whipped Belmont. They crunched Eastern Illinois the other night on the road, 72-46. And guess what? They get to play Eastern Illinois again tonight. That game coming at home this time, coming to you from the confines of the CFSB Center. I imagine it'll be a capacity crowd of 8,600 plus over there, because what else is there to do in Murray, Kentucky but watch the Racers? I mean, let's face it, Eastern Illinois, they're 357th in adjusted offensive efficiency. They're 353rd in effective field goal percentage. They're dead last shooting twos at 39.6%. If that wasn't bad enough, they're one of the 5 teams that's worse than USC shooting free throws at 60.9%. They're terrible shooting threes. They're second worst in block percentage. They're second worst in steal percentage. They're third worst in turnover percentage. They don't get offensive rebounds, and they don't stop anybody on defense. Other than that,
they do fine. Yes, okay.
Marty Simmons' team is 2-14. They've lost 7 in a row. They've beaten no teams from Division I this season. They are 0-14 in those games. They lost their 2 wins, a 32-point win over Rockford. Yeah, great. Kudos to you for that. And then they beat North Park by 5.
So what you're telling James is that he's in pretty good shape to bet Murray State. Is that what you're trying to tell him?
Yeah, I mean, I know the line is high, but when you're dealing with a team that's 2-14 and has no wins, Murray State going off currently at 27.5. The total has actually gone down half a point. It was 128. It's 127.5 now. Murray State 10th in scoring offense, 11th in field goal percentage, 16th in three-point shooting. They're good defensively. Eastern Illinois, you know what I'd love to see? I'd love to see if they could make it a pay-per-view event. John would buy it. It'd be Eastern Illinois versus IUPUI in a best-of-7 series.
That's true.
The team to get to 60 points. I
they
think
go overtime and get to 60 points.
Yeah, well, they could go to quadruple overtime.
That's possible, yeah.
I know, James, you'd worry about them bringing guys off the bench and everything, but I mean, ask John how well that worked with IUPUI when he tried to bet with the 33 points against Ohio State the other night. After I warned him not to do it because This was going to be one of those games where they lost by 50, and then you wonder why you bet money on it. The other night in that game, Murray State was up 22-8 midway through the first half. It got cut to a 9-point lead. Then they outscored Eastern Illinois 39-22 in the second half. It's going to be one of those games, I think, where Murray State playing at home, they're going to feed off the crowd. They're going to try and, get all the flashy dunks in and everything else. I think that the Racers should cover. I mean, they won by 26 on the road. They shouldn't have any problem winning by at least 30 or 35 at home, given the fact that the Racers have played such quality basketball this season. You look at their numbers. Their home wins by 32, 19, 37. They beat Middle Tennessee by 6, but that's a write-off. Then they won by 70. Then they won by 11. They won by 25 and 23. And that 23-point win over Tennessee State was the one that they threw together at the last second because that was supposed to be the Austin Peay game. It was rescheduled for next week.
Any more college basketball questions before we move on?
I don't see anybody jumping out. I mean, John wants to know about IUPUI, but I've got that covered later in the show.
We'll get to John. Don't worry. IUPUI will be there. I watched John. I want you to know I watched them the other night against Ohio State just for you, buddy. And by the way, just to Chris's point, in the final 2 minutes of the game, the band was playing for Ohio State. I don't think that the actual basketball team was on the court anymore.
The band probably outscored IUPUI too.
Yeah, by 4 points. It was a close game. Okay, onward we go.
Real quick, John, are you talking about St. Thomas versus South Dakota State?
Which St. Thomas?
I'm guessing he's talking about St. Thomas from Minnesota.
Okay.
They play South Dakota State in a exciting Summit League matchup, but I'm just making sure because he's saying, will they go over 500?
Will they go over 500? Was that the over in total points or
I don't know. I mean, they've got the total on that one. It's set at 162. I mean, that could make it for a high-scoring game. The Jackrabbits, they do like to live up to their name and run and gun. I mean, they're third in the nation at 87 points a game. St. Thomas is 39th in scoring at 78-7, and both teams are below average on the defensive end of the floor. The Jackrabbits just like to try and pile up points like, they're going out of style. Those kind of games are always entertaining to watch because not only are they mid-majors that nobody pays attention to, they're mid-majors that like to pile up points.
Right. Defense optional.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you look at the last 6 games in this win streak for South Dakota State, the fewest points that they've scored is 80. 89, 82, 90, 84, 95, and 80. And they've given up they gave up 86 points twice in that stretch.
Think about that. That's in a 40-minute game.
Right. And then you look at St. Thomas, they're coming off a loss to Oral Roberts. But even in their four of the 5 games prior to that, they hung at least 80. They hung 109, then 80, then 97, and 89, including an impressive win over Western Illinois, who we talk about later in the show as well. Their one loss in that stretch before losing to Oral Roberts, they scored 74 in a loss to Denver. That game could go over the total. I mean, you look at the fact that it's a track meet. I'm thinking it's gonna cruise and bounce over that mark.
Okay, but I doubt that they're going to get to 500, don't you?
No, I don't think they'll get to 500, but I think they'll get past 162.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, so let's move on because we got hockey fans, and so let's move on to the ice, and we're going to go to
the Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle, where the Kraken host the Sharks. The Kraken screwed us over the other day by winning in a shootout over Chicago.
Yep.
Their 9-game losing streak, so they're now 1-9 in their last 10 games. Kudos for them. The Sharks 21-17-2, the Kraken 11-23-4. Seattle 7-12-2 on home ice. The Sharks 10-9 on the road this year. It's going to be Aiden Hill 9-10-1 with a 273 goals against, a 906 save percentage, and 1 shutout in goal for San Jose. The Kraken will once again turn to Philippe Grubauer 8-15-4 with a 331 goals against and a putrid 882 save percentage in that one. Sharks 17th in goals against. They give up 3 per game, which seems like a lot, but then you see Seattle is 30th and gives up 3.61. That is a big difference, especially when you consider both teams are mediocre offensively. The Sharks 23rd in goals per game. Seattle is 25th. But this boils down to, the Sharks are better in their own zone. They play quality hockey. They're 5-1 in their last 6 against teams with a losing record. They're 5-2 in their last 7 on 2 days of rest. The Kraken don't know how to win at home. They're 1-8 in their last 9 home games, and that was that win the other day against Chicago. They're 0-5 in their last 5 against teams with a winning record. They're 0-5 in their last 5 against teams from the Pacific Division. And, just throw in for good measure the fact that, Grubauer is playing and hasn't been able to stop a beach ball some nights, especially playing in his own arena. You have to think that the Kraken are going to be in trouble here. They're minus a couple of offensive weapons. And San Jose is going to be motivated to avenge that 3-1 home loss to the Kraken they suffered last month in San Jose. I look for the Sharks to take that one over the Kraken and send Seattle back to their losing ways.
Well, there you go. You got to I feel bad. Grubauer has been, has had some good seasons. It's unfortunate he's not having a good one this time around.
Like we said before, it's tough when you go to an expansion team and you go to one where they didn't build it the same way George McPhee did with Vegas.
Right.
He doesn't really have a blue line group to work around, and they don't have the forwards where they can score to keep them in a game. And I agree with Super Sly there. He says that, he likes the Sharks at this odds, and this game seems like a gift. The Sharks are going to be motivated to bounce back after that disappointing showing they had against Seattle last month. And,
Absolutely.
The way the Kraken are playing right now, you have to think they can pull that out.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on.
We're going to move down the West Coast to the Crypto Dome, as we like to call it. The Avalanche on the road against the Kings. The Avs 26-8-3, the Kings 20-15-5. The Kings are 13-9-2 at home, but the Avalanche 10-6-2 on the road. They're coming off a 2-0 shutout of Anaheim last night. So a nice defensive showing by the Ducks, but they couldn't light the lamp, and that ended up costing them. It'll be Darcy Kemper 17-5-1 with a 272 goals against, a 908 save percentage, and 1 shutout in net for Colorado. That was confirmed by Coach Jared Bednar yesterday when he said that Kemper did not suffer a concussion earlier this week, so he'll be back between the pipes instead of Pavel Francouz. Jonathan Quick, 11-9-4 with a 253 goals against, 915 save percentage, and 2 shutouts in net for the Kings. The tough part for LA, they're 18th in goals for at 2.83, and they have to deal with an Avalanche team that leads the league with 4.19 goals a night. They're also coming off a 6-2 loss to the Sharks or the Kings, and Colorado is 9-0 in their last 9 against an opponent that gave up at least 5 goals in their last game. They're 8-1 in the second game of back-to-backs. So, they're not even intimidated when it comes to the fact that, they had to play somebody and then go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
The Kings 3-9 in their last 12 against Central Division teams and 1-4 in their last 5 as an underdog. Quick will keep them in the game, but the Kings just don't have the offense to keep up with Colorado.
Yeah. I was about to say, Jonathan Quick, that is a very deceptive line for him at 11-9-4 because he's a much better keeper than those numbers would give you, the reason to believe. And but like you said about, Philip Grubauer, if you don't have the blue line in the defense, you get a lot of odd man rushes, and Colorado can, as good as Jonathan said, as you were saying about Quick, as good as he is, those odd man rushes, there's going to be some pucks fly in there no matter how good you are.
Yeah, if you look, we've seen games where Quick lost, he's lost 2-1 on a couple of occasions, or 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so those are games that he lost one game against the Capitals back in mid-November. He gave up 1 goal on 37 shots.
Yeah.
And, they lost 2-0 because they gave up an empty netter after that. But still, when you're turning in games where you're giving up 1 or 2 goals and you're still losing.
Right.
And now you've got to play a team in Colorado that has no problem with lighting the lamp.
Right.
We've seen it repeatedly, and that's going to be a rough night for Quick. He's coming off a rough start. San Jose got him for 6 goals on 17 shots the other day.
Yeah.
And now you got to deal with the Avalanche with McKinnon and Landeskog and Mikko Rantanen and all those guys, sign me out. I'd be saying I pulled a hamstring, put Cal Peterson in.
Yeah, please. And Stan Kroenke, who owns the Avalanche, also owns the Rams. So you got to believe he's going to be sitting there watching that game in Los Angeles and in the visitors' owners box and enjoying himself. So, all right, let's go to the association. There's some good games that we got for everybody tonight.
Yep, and real quick, Super Sly also said a prime example for the Kings. Look at the Winnipeg Jets. You got Hellebuyck in goal, but the defense isn't all that great. Outside, I have to give you credit though. They do have Neil. I could never figure out if his last name is Pionk or Plonk or what. But I mean, he's a good defenseman. I mean, they just need to build around him, and they've got some good forwards. I really like Kyle Connor over there. He's made Blake Wheeler and those guys look better than probably they are.
Than they should be.
And Mark Scheifele as well. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you're right. Winnipeg is a team that needs some blue line help. I mean, there's a lot of teams that could use better blue lines around the league because they waste. You see a lot of teams waste good starts for their goaltenders, and it's got to be frustrating for those guys.
Yeah, it's like a pitcher who has pitches a good game but loses 2-1 or 3-2 because nobody scores any runs for him.
Right. Or the bullpen blows it.
That's another one, yeah. That's my personal pet peeve. So we're down in Big D tonight.
Yeah, we're gonna go there. The Suns favored by, depending on the book, it's 2.5 or 3. When I wrote this, it was 3. I think it's gone back to 2.5. I like them over the Mavs. Phoenix obviously 34-9 this year. They lead the league as far as record goes. Dallas 26-19 as they try to chase down Memphis in the Southwest Division. Both teams are hot. Phoenix has won 7 of 8. The Mavs have won 9 of 10, which is funny because we remember early in the year Dallas was going nowhere fast. Mm-hmm. The Mavs 14-8 at home, but that's eclipsed by the Suns 17-4 road record on the year. The Mavs also playing the second game of a back-to-back. They beat Toronto 102-98 at home last night. DeAndre Ayton will not play for the Suns tonight, according to the latest injury report, with an ankle injury. But it might not matter. The Suns still have Devin Booker and Chris Paul and a whole slew of other guys that can step up and contribute. The Suns 5-1 in their last 6 after a straight-up win. They're 5-1 in their last 6 as a road favorite. 5-1 in their last 6 on the road, period. Dallas 11-23 in their last 34 after scoring 100 points or more. They're 3-8 against the spread in their last 11 at home against teams with a winning road record. And the Suns 8-1 against the spread in the last 9 meetings in Dallas. I always have a tough time when it comes to playing the second game of back-to-back with some of these teams. I know that Dallas has played well of late. They're relatively healthy getting Porzingis back. Reggie Bullock and Kleba were both questionable yesterday. They played. Mm-hmm. I mean, Phoenix, there's just so many weapons, and they're rested after beating San Antonio Monday night convincingly in that one. You have to think that the Suns can get the win here on the road. They ring up win number 35 for Monty Williams out there.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on. We've got a couple of interesting teams that just one happens to be the second best team in basketball. And we're going out to the new building, new-ish, I should say, building in San Francisco, where the Warriors and the Pacers play.
Yeah, the Pacers, 16-29, they did beat the Lakers yesterday, which was disappointing because I said the Lakers were going to win. I'd have to give Frank Vogel credit, though. He benched Russell Westbrook down the stretch in that game for the final 4 minutes after Westbrook kind of loafed around on defense and let Karis LeVert go by him like a turnstile earlier in the fourth quarter. Now, that's a gutsy move, especially with the reports that you had, Jim, that, he could be in jeopardy of losing his job.
Right.
But, even with that win, the Pacers are just 4-17 on the road. Golden State's 19-3 at home. Like we said, it's going to be the second game of back-to-back for Indiana. I know Draymond Green and Otto Porter aren't going to play for Golden State. Indiana won't have Miles Turner, who's out until after the trade deadline, likely with that foot injury. Domantas Sabonis is a question mark now tonight. They added him late on the injury report. It's going to be an uphill climb for Indiana. I mean, Golden State leads the league in scoring defense. They lead the league in field goal percentage defense, and they're fourth in three-point defense on the year. Indiana's just 1-4-1 against the spread in their last 6 on the road against teams with a winning home record. They're 1-4 in their last 5 on the road against teams with a home winning percentage greater than 600. And Golden State's 19-6-1 against the spread in their last 26 at home. I'm not looking for a big offensive bonanza here. I mean, Golden State might scrape over the 100-point mark, kind of like they did against Detroit the other night.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana, they're just brutal on the road. And, I mean, the reason why they got 111 last night is because the Lakers can't play defense.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. You'll look at that and you say, well, it's Golden State and Phoenix are like here, and then everybody else is strata down below that. But those two teams are, and you brought up Utah before.
Yeah, Utah's struggling right now. I mean, they lost to Houston last night. That was another disappointing game. But, I mean, they've had injury issues. You know, Gobert missed time with COVID. Joe Ingles is out with COVID. Donovan Mitchell's dealing with a back issue.
Right.
But, I mean, you know, come the end of the season, I think you're going to see those three. You're going to see Memphis in the West. If Dallas can keep playing the way they are, they could be battling in the West.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting to see who ends up with home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs, just based on the fact that you've got 4, 5, 6 good teams battling for 4 spots.
Right. And you might, you know, and then there's the Battle of Los Angeles, you know.
Right. A team that actually makes the playoffs.
Right. Which that, you know, a couple of years ago, that would have been, that would have been heresy if you're talking about that kind of stuff. Well, let's take a moment and chat a little bit about our buddies at Caesars Sportsbook. And they've got a special deal, which we want to tell you about, for winners and whiners. That's because they like us and we like them. Here's the deal. You make your first deposit and bet using Caesars Sportsbook app or online, and they're going to match that first wager all the way up to dollar for dollar to $1,000, okay? But you have to use the promo code Video Winners to get that deal, all right? So when you go to Caesars Sports app or their online service and use it for the first time, make that first deposit and first bet, and all the way up to $1,000, they'll match it. But you have to use that promo code Video Winners. Now, if you happen to be in the state of New York, well, then we got something really cool for you. They're calling it the Empire State Royal Welcome. And what that means is you get $300 in bonus cash for a sign-up. Then they're going to match your first deposit all the way up to $3,000. That's $3,300 potentially, folks. And you get it only if you use the promo code Winners New. Okay, so all of the information on both of those outstanding deals are in our show box below, and we strongly recommend that you check it out. And of course, you have to be 21 years of age or above to play. And as we always say, both Caesars and those of us here at Winners and Whiners always wager responsibly. So let's go for 2 for the money, my friend. You ready?
Yep.
Here we go. 2 for the money.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and roll with the puck line here on Vegas, minus 1.5 over Montreal, just because the money line was ridiculously bad, because obviously the Canadians are horrible. I know they beat Dallas the other night, but you can't expect that kind of trend to continue. The money line, in case anybody is wondering, Vegas going off at minus 320. This money line has actually come down to minus 135 now, or on the puck line, I should say, which is a plus. You look, it's going to be Samuel Montembeault, 2-6-3 with a 372 goals against and a 902 save percentage, against Robin Leonard, 15-11-1 with a 295 goals against and a 904 save percentage for Vegas. I get that Pacioretty and Stone are both going to be missing for Vegas, but Montreal has been awful. They've got a whole list of guys that aren't going to be playing. And let's face it, the Canadians don't tend to have a ton of success when it comes to putting together wins. We faded Vegas the other night against Pittsburgh. That panned out. They lost 5-3. They've actually dropped 3 in a row at home. Look for that trend to reverse tonight as Montreal comes in 3-15-4 on the road. They'll drop to 3-16-4 there. We just said Phoenix minus 2.5 over Dallas. It's just tough to trust a team playing the second game of back-to-back, even if it's in the same building. Phoenix is obviously, the league's best team record-wise for a reason. And it's because they take advantage of prime situations like this. We said Oakland minus 7.5 over Milwaukee. Oakland, unlike some teams, can make free throws and will put the game away that way if they have to. They also are very good offensively. Milwaukee not as much. And we just talked about Colorado over the Kings. The Avs are playing the second game of back-to-back, but they have success with that, mainly because they can just steamroll you with 4 lines so they don't have to overload anybody. It's not like they're the Edmonton Oilers where you see Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl playing 30 minutes a game because they don't have anybody else. And the Kings, they struggle in the blue line. They don't have a ton of weapons offensively. I like the Avs on the road at the Crypto Dome, as we like to call it.
All right, let's go for 2 for the show.
Right, and we've got the Sharks over the Kraken. We just talked about Seattle's 1-9 in their last 10. They won in a shootout over Chicago, but the Sharks are motivated. They're playing good hockey. Look for them to get the win. Indiana playing the big game of back-to-back. They don't have Turner. They might not have Sabonis. Golden State is playing at home. They're 19-3 there. The Pacers are 4-17 on the road. There's no reason to trust Indiana here. I mean, if you want to play the money line on any of these over the point line, over the point spread, you can do that too. Just want to throw that out there. Wright State minus 14.5. I know it seems like a lot. I know they had their issues with IUPUI. In the first meeting, they won by 14. But we just saw IUPUI get utterly destroyed by Ohio State, where I believe the water boy, the towel boy, and 3 cheerleaders outscored the Jaguars in the second half. I think that Wright State, they had won 7 straight before they were upended by Youngstown State by 3 over the weekend. I think they're going to come back with a vengeance here and pick up the victory. And finally, St. Mary's, we said, over Santa Clara. We said the Broncos, they've played decent basketball, but Herb Sendek's team, their 2 road wins are over teams that have no substance whatsoever. The Gales are battle-tested. They're 9-0 at home. Their 4 losses are against teams that have a combined winning percentage of nearly 85%. So, I mean, and I know we use this a lot, but to quote Gene Smith, they weren't losing to the little sisters of the poor. When you lose to BYU, Colorado State, Wisconsin, and San Diego State, you're losing to some teams that have substance. Look for them to go to 10-0 at home as Randy Bennett's team takes care of this over Herb Sendek and the Broncos.
All right, so we've gone 2 for the money. We've gone 4 for the show. Now it's time for what we like to call our grab bag, and that's a little bit of everything, but you know what? There's a lot to be said for having some diversity and some variety. So we're going to go to Chris King, and he's going to give you the variety pack here. There's a lot of good opportunities here. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, like Jim said, there's a ton of stuff out here. I'm going to start. I don't just realize I put minus 7.5 twice. It doesn't really matter. UConn minus 7.5 over Butler. We know the Bulldogs struggle offensively. UConn has played some very good basketball, especially with the return of Adama Sanogo from an injury. The Huskies are on the road. I get that Butler, everybody thinks that, hey, if Butler's playing at home, well, so what? If you don't score any points, it doesn't matter, and that's been a big issue for the Bulldogs this season. Butler doesn't have much that you can scream about that makes you say, hey, this team can hang with somebody, because they can't. They don't score any points. They're just 9-8 on the year. I get UConn's only 1-2 on the road, but that shouldn't really matter all that much, given the fact that they play quality basketball. They cruised to a win over Butler Tuesday night. These teams just met at Sports Pavilion there, and UConn was up 15 at the half and won by 17. So I don't expect much of a reversal of fortunes there. Texas State, I know nobody ever wants to talk about the Sun Belt because, hey, you're like, what the hell is the Sun Belt? But that's all right. Texas State, the Bobcats, Terrence Johnson, his team's 11-4. They come off a impressive come-from-behind win over Louisiana. The Raging Cajuns have been the talk of the Sun Belt in recent years. They came back from 12 down in the second half to beat the Raging Cajuns 72-68 for the day. They face a Little Rock team that has haven't played in 2 weeks and lost 2 of their last 3 before the pause, including an 8-point loss to Louisiana Monroe. Darrell Walker's got his hands full, especially when you factor in that Little Rock is third worst in the nation in effective field goal percentage defense at 58.5%. To make it worse, they're 350th in 3-point defense. They're 355th in 2-point defense. Texas State's got to be licking their lips at this, thinking about how many points they can score. Look for the Bobcats to get their 12th win of the year. Western Illinois, we talked about them earlier in the year. They opened the season with a win over Nebraska. They disappointed me when they lost to Nebraska Omaha, but they're at home over South Dakota tonight. The Coyotes are a sieve defensively. I look for the Leathernecks to cover the line there. And the final game in college basketball, UC Irvine, they haven't played much lately, but, the Anteaters are always tough in the Big West. CSU Fullerton doesn't play well on the road, ever. I look for the Anteaters, Colin Welp, and the guys to get the win in that one. On the NBA hardwood, the Pelicans on the road to face the Knicks. The Knicks playing their third game in 4 nights. They lost to Charlotte Monday. They turned around and lost to Minnesota on Tuesday. They'll turn around and probably lose this one to New Orleans on Thursday. The Knicks still don't have Cam Reddish. They don't have Nerlens Noel. Derrick Rose, of course, out till February. You're putting a lot of pressure on Julius Randle, Evan Fournier, and Kemba Walker to step up. And that's provided Walker can, keep his bulky knee from taking him off the floor. Phoenix and Dallas, I look to stay under 216.5. If you think about it, the Mavs are second or third in the league in scoring defense. The Suns are sixth. And Dallas doesn't score a ton of points anyway. We saw them combined with Toronto to score 200 yesterday. This number seems like a gift. Same with Indiana and Golden State. The Pacers aren't a great offensive team. Golden State leads the league in scoring defense. We saw them match up with Detroit, and they barely cracked the 190-point mark in that game. Don't expect big offensive fireworks here with the Pacers playing the second game of a back-to-back. And think about this. Even playing yesterday against the Lakers, who are civ defensively, those teams only combined for 215. On the ice, Philadelphia, we had fun bashing them earlier this week when we told you the Islanders would beat them on back-to-back nights. The Flyers are 0-7-2 in their last 9. But I look for them to get the win tonight at home against the Blue Jackets. Columbus is horrible when it comes to stopping teams on the road. The Blue Jackets, if you look at that, they are 6-12 as the visiting team this season. In those games, they have given up an average of 4.11 goals a game. So you're talking about they've given up 49 goals in 12 road games this season. The Flyers play better at home. They average 3.11 goals a game on home ice compared to 2 on the road. Look for Carter Hart and the boys to get the better of Elvis Merzlikins and the Blue Jackets. Winnipeg. Super Sly, you were talking about the Jets with Hellebuyck in goal. They're facing a Nashville team that'll have UC Saros back in goal tonight. But the Preds have lost 4 in a row, including that loss the other night to Vancouver. Bruce Boudreau and the Canucks beat him 3-1 Tuesday night. We told you that Nashville would lose to St. Louis Monday and Vancouver on Tuesday. So this is the 3rd game in 4 nights for Nashville. It's the 4th game in 6 nights for the Preds. And going back to last Thursday, it's the 5th time in 8 days that the Predators will take the ice. You have to think that fatigue is going to be a factor for them. I like Winnipeg in this one. And finally, the Florida Panthers, minus 160 over Edmonton. Edmonton has played once in the last 2 weeks due to COVID issues and the attendance cap restrictions throughout the Canadian
Province.
The government. Yeah. They're going to be rusty. Florida, they can score a lot. I like the Panthers there behind Sergei Bobrovsky.
Well, there you go, folks. Quite a lot of good situations there, good options, plenty of opportunities. Any things that pop out to you as we get ready to leave here, Chris, on the night that you like? Obviously, you like Oakland. You think that's a good situation there.
Yeah, Oakland, and I mean, I really have to say I like Winnipeg just because of the fact that, I mean, how often do you see in the NHL a team play 5 times in 8 nights? You see that in the NBA, but the NBA is not nearly as physical when it comes to, banging around and everything like it is in the NHL. It's got to be a fatigue factor for the Predators.
Absolutely.
And then Also, Vegas, I'm going to fade Montreal as much as I can because, hey, sure, the Canadians have a proud heritage. I will not take that away from them.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I hate them being a Toronto fan. The CBC did a great thing about 20 years ago, the Forever Rivals documentary. I had the book and all that. It was a great thing, but this is not the Montreal team that we saw last year. Like Greg Wyshynski at ESPN said, the Penguin or the Canadians are like Cinderella. They had their run to the Stanley Cup Finals last year, but the clock has struck midnight now, and everything turned back into a pumpkin. That sums up the Canadians this season. Vegas should have no problem taking care of business against them.
Okay. Any final questions before we head out and get ready for tomorrow's show? I'm looking around. Raise your hands, boys. Don't forget to smash that like button because I don't want James chasing me down. And subscribe so you can join us tomorrow at 1:30 for a big look at, a little bit of looking ahead to the NFL on Saturday.
Right. Well, for any luck, we'll have somebody here that can talk about it just as well as we can.
That's right. That would be greatly appreciated. So, all right, folks. One last time. Any questions? Going once, going twice? I guess not. Okay, cool. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. As I said before, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and join us tomorrow at 1:30 for Chris King.
And as always, guys, if you want to reach out, you can. My Twitter handle's right there. Right. Ask John; he'll tell you that you can usually reach me because if I'm at my computer, I always check it during the day, and I'll get back to you if you have any questions.
See, there you go, folks. Talk about someone who's being a total, all access guy. It's Chris King. He's your all access guy. So
stay tuned for Steen and Reichel, who apparently complained that we called them out for taking our Islanders pick the other day. Feel free to razz them about that because it's just entertainment.
Well, they're entertaining, and they're on at 3:00 right here on the Winners and Miners Sports Betting Network. Scott and Scott coming up at 3:00. They're great guys. It's a lot of fun, and we're glad to be part of the team with them. So, all right, guys, have a great day. Chris, you have a great evening, my friend, and we will see all of you tomorrow right back here on Just Parlays.